So, folks, the strike expanding now to 20 states, spilling over as manufacturers and part suppliers are laying off workers. More expected to follow. So what does it all mean for the overall economy? Joining me now, Quill Intelligence CEO Danielle DiMartino Booth, Kace Capital Advisors founder Kenny Polcari, and Tom Maoli. He's the owner of 6 car dealerships, including a Ford dealer in New Jersey. Danielle, let me start with you. You cover the broad economy. You follow the Federal Reserve money. And, you know, we have these conversations daily. What do you see as far as the impact? Already I'm reading $1.6 billion so far.
Well, there's certainly going to be economic fallout in terms of production, and that's going to sap jobs out of the U.S. economy. But we have to remember the backdrop, Charles. The big 3 automakers ramped up production in the 3 months beginning in March, and they ended up with 2 million cars in inventory with 15 million units selling per year on an annual rate. Last time we had 2 million units in inventory in 2019, cars were selling at a 17 million annualized rate. So the demand is not what it once was. So the impact of this strike is not hurting these automakers as much as it would otherwise. I would add one last thing, and that's that the revenue at big dealership service centers is at a 5-year low. So again, they're aiming to hurt. But the backdrop matters right now, Charles.
Right. Well, on that note, I got to go to Tom. Tom, she just hit a few things that you would know about firsthand. What do you make of the idea that maybe automakers were kind of worried this would happen? There's an overproduction, and does that buy you some time? Does that buy the consumer some time?
Yeah, listen, it definitely buys the consumer some time. The inventories on the new car side are definitely, they saw this coming, so they started producing more. But I have to tell you, I disagree on one issue. Parts are going to be the issue. The supply chain gets shut down. Parts can't get to the dealerships. When the supply chain gets shut down and they start laying off employees, what they do is they shut the truckers down. Parts cannot get to the dealerships. And if the parts can't get to the dealerships can't fix the cars. The consumers can't get their cars on the road. And you know what? That's catastrophic because they have to get to work. They have to get their children to school. You're shutting down the transportation system. It's disastrous. And I have to tell you, what the UAW is asking for is unsustainable.
Yeah. So are you and then saying you kind of lean toward the car companies themselves? Do you think the UAW deserves any sort of raise? And is it intriguing that they did begin these strikes at final assembly points, not choke points, final assembly points, so that maybe if it's a short strike, there won't be the kind of, the ripple effect that you've described?
Yeah, listen, I have to tell you, what they're asking for is unsustainable. You can't get a 40% pay increase in a 10% inflation environment and reduce your work hours to 32 hours and get paid for 40. Right. Yes, the car companies have record profits, but what they have to look at is they have to peel back the onion. Ford is on track to lose $4.5 billion in this EV insanity that Biden created, that the consumer doesn't want. They're not buying into the EVs. So they created this mandate. They're losing billions of dollars on that side of the fence. And they have to go back pre-COVID, because when you go back pre-COVID, these car companies weren't making these kind of profits. So what happens if we go back to pre-COVID reality? Right. And we give a 40% pay increase and we give a 32-hour work week, these car companies are going to go bankrupt. Right. So, and what you're doing is you're forcing the manufacturer to start looking outside of the U.S. to produce, because they can't produce at a competitive rate. So they're going to start looking in Mexico, in Venezuela, in China, and that's what we're trying to avoid. We want to drive these jobs back to the U.S.
Right. Kenny, the irony, is that because of the EV mandate, which, by the way, the kind of losses that Tom just described that these automakers are taking, there's a wink and a nod. At some point, if the Democrats keep the White House, we are going to be mandated to own these cars. Right now, they're trying to the old, hey, $7,500. A lot of folks don't need a $7,500 tax credit. They don't make enough money. So I want to get your thoughts on this, Kenny, because the UAW is saying, hey, after this, we're going to lose. They're going to fire 30 or 40% of us. You don't need us to make EVs. Look at Tesla's profit margins. So they're saying our survival is this moment now. We can't wait any longer.
Right, and that may be true, but remember the contract is only 4 years long, so it's not like this takes them out forever. And to your point, yes, as we go to the shift into EVs, there's going to be a change in jobs. There is that projection that there's going to be a massive loss in jobs. So yeah, I understand what the UAW is doing. I also would agree with Mr. Maoli that I think it's probably a little bit it's probably a bit rich what they're asking for, right?
Sure.
They want a higher wage and a shorter work week. I don't see where that makes a lot of sense, but I do think they should get paid a fair wage, one way or the other. Whether if we're mandated now to start buying EVs, if there's another Democratic administration, they have to build out the infrastructure because the infrastructure does not support EVs right now.
The infrastructure doesn't support any of this, Kenny. Now you're talking logical, right? I mean, now you're talking about something that has nothing to do with this. This is not about economics. It's about a mandate. But, Danielle, let me go back to you because I think it's nonsensical to think they're going to get 32-hour work week, get paid 40 hours to 32 hours. I think it's a start of a negotiation. But we started this off with the right word, inflation. Right, we're talking about everyone watching this show. They have been impacted negatively by inflation. And these auto workers, believe it or not, have making less money than almost anyone else in manufacturing over the last 15 years. And you add in inflation, it's negative. So you got to feel there's going to be a deal. I just wonder how long it will take both sides, because what I've understood, every 10 days that all these workers, if they all go on strike, every 10 days is $5.6 billion. We can't absorb that as a nation, can we?
No, we can't, and you're absolutely correct. I mean, timing is everything, and the UAW's last negotiation occurred before fiscal spending created this inflationary spiral that they've had to sustain, effectively making lower real income. I understand where they're coming from, but I would also look back and say history matters. In 1981, when the air traffic controllers went on strike, one of their main demands that the public disagreed with was the 32-hour work week. I have to work more than 40 hours.
Yeah, I don't think anyone.
In their demands, that's my point.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone thinks they're going to get that, but I think 75% of Americans think they should get a raise. I'm one of them because they are severely underpaid.
Yes.
Fantastic. Danielle, Kenny, Tom, love you all. Talk again.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.